Corlia, when Oireachtas and Gerkim Tihiachta Taresh Eri in the Hobashta Socialta, Tanaliesta Fehev Hospital getting his Fudge na Vija the Rio, Agus and Kaijan Maralta Chichim. Shaw Cudgeon the Fohev is Misha Igvotal, me Winings and Realta Shaw, Margawood Chip Umlan and Realta Shaw, Agus the Shanam dan Nero. Ican Corlia, Michael Martin was right. He was right when he walked outside this House a number of years ago and declared to the world that the best interests of the Irish people are not served by a government made up of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And unfortunately, how right he was, because we have seen over the last 2 years how those words have rung loud and true for workers and families across the state. Since the election, Corlia, we have seen rents increase and spiral out of control. The average rent in this state now €18,000 per year, in Dublin over 24,000. Since the election, house prices have continued to spiral, with the average price now almost €312,000, a whole generation locked out of home ownership. And under this government, the housing crisis has got worse and worse. Today, there are 1.3 million people on hospital waiting lists, many of them waiting 12 hours and more in emergency departments up and down this state. And healthcare has become less accessible, not more, to patients and families who are struggling. Children with additional needs, some of them still don't even know what schools they will be in come August and September time. So, Corlia, families, and we've seen this last week, families whose homes are crumbling before their eyes watched as this government rammed a defective scheme through the Dáil that leaves them with tens of thousands to come out of their own pockets, and many of them will be locked out of this scheme, locked into a future of despair. We need a strong and inclusive economy, one that supports workers and families, but the failure of this government in housing and childcare are damaging our economy and the workers who have built it. Under this government, living standards have fallen faster than at any time since the financial crash that was brought on by Fianna Fáil's government. With Ireland now the most expensive country in the EU for housing costs, including rent, including mortgage rates and including electricity. The Ireland today under Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and the Greens is an Ireland where 1 in 3 are living in energy poverty. It's where in Ireland where 1 in 3 are struggling to make ends meet, where too many struggling on low pay struggle to build a future and live in Ireland where they feel that they have no future. The living standards of Irish households is below the European average. That is a fact. And under this government, workers and families face mounting energy bills, transport costs and food prices, with many of them at breaking point. Struggling under a cost of living crisis, workers and families deserve a government that hears them, that listens to them and that's willing to respond for them. Workers and families deserve a government that is in touch with their concerns and that will take decisive action. But instead, they are faced with a government that refuses to take action, refuses to bring forward an emergency budget, and that their message to them is to sit tight, to buckle up, because they are on their own. But a very different message is there for the vulture funds and the investment funds, because this is a government that is only all too quick to roll out the red carpet for those that want to exploit the housing crisis to the detriment of renters and home buyers. This is a government that has allowed the most vulnerable to wither on the vine and has only responded when they have been shamed into action. This is a government that is out of touch, a government that is out of ideas, a government that is out of time. So today this Dáil faces a question. And the question is simple. Are we heading in the right direction under this government or the wrong direction? And the answer is plainly clear for anybody to see. In housing, in health, in the cost of living, in MICA and many other issues, things are getting worse for far too many people. The Irish people have big ambitions for their country. They have big ambitions for their communities and for their families. But they are stuck in a rut because they are with a government that has created more problems than it solves. A government that is big on promises but weak on delivery. So I have no confidence in a government that has turned a housing crisis into a social disaster. I have no confidence in a government that has brought our healthcare system to a standstill for so many patients. I have no confidence in a government that has failed to protect lower and middle income households from the sharp edge of the cost of living crisis. And members of this Dáil shouldn't either. And that is why I'm voting no confidence in this government. It is time for change. It is time to replace this government.
Thank you very much. Now the regional group.